About 2.5 weeks ago, I made a video about 8 severely underrated Roblox games, but a lot of people in my comments were upset about the fact that I didn't mention these certain games, and it's not just a few games, it's several. So that's why today I'll be going over a bunch of games that I think should have made the cut. I'll also explain why a few of the games didn't qualify. This is Land of the Sun. Released in March of 2024, it's one of the many lore games on Roblox, but this one stood out, and I'll tell you why. Unlike most up-and-coming lore games, in Land of the Sun, everything you do must be carefully thought about. You can't just spam attacks and hope for the best. You gotta be deliberate about what you're doing. The world here is clearly harsh, a vast wasteland surrounded by seas that will literally kill you. But that's what makes it special. Every step matters, every decision has weight. I mean, come on, that's how most of these deep lore games work. This game is quite literally the embodiment of whiz-bang, and you'll soon find out why. The Tower is a game that might remind you of red light, green light, except stopping will actually kill you, and moving will keep you alive. The game is broken down like this. There is a killer, also known as the sniper, and a bunch of survivors. The killer is another player tasked with one job. You can probably guess what it is. As a survivor, your goal is simple but terrifying. Make it to the checkpoint without getting hit. One bullet to the arm, you're bleeding out. Leg shot, same thing, except you won't be able to walk. With fewer than 1,000 concurrent players and less than 2 million visits, the Tower delivers a fun experience that deserves way more attention. This is Project Untote. Based off the name, you'd think it's one of those fast-paced shooters, but instead, it's a brutal survival game set right after World War II. Imagine Guts and Black Powder, but instead of muskets, you get automatic rifles and grenades. What makes the game special is how it blends history with horror. You're surviving in trenches and bunkers, gunning down zombies until the next round. Surprisingly, this game gets less than 300 players. Made by the same people who created Isle, I bring you Abyss World, a Roblox game inspired by the anime Made in Abyss, where your goal is simple: descend as deep as possible. But don't let that fool you. This journey down is packed with unique challenges. The game's standout feature is its special jump system. Unlike normal Roblox games, you charge jumps to control your arc. Your progress is measured in depth, with checkpoints saving your position and granting extra lives, called souls. Run out of souls and it's back to the beginning. Each checkpoint also offers 5 challenges that unlock special accessories. As you rage at the fact that you keep on dying, you'll be serenaded with some beautiful tunes, making you think, it's alright, I'll try again. Averaging less than 300 players, Abyss World is truly an underrated gem. This is Far From Land, a FNAF-styled horror game that'll have you on the edge of your seat. This game isn't for the faint of heart. You're trapped as the driver of an industrial ship, but there seems to be things just lurking beyond the dark. You'll see your first problem fairly quickly, or hear it. This thing is called Shut, a tall bacon hair reminiscent of FNAF 3. When Shut appears, you better hold your breath, literally. The game forces you to time your breathing perfectly or face deadly consequences. Just when you think you've gotten everything figured out, you're sent on an inspection check after the first voyage. And well, I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise, now would I? Far From Land really stood out as one of those games that doesn't even look like Roblox. You need to check this out. This is Unorthodox Accounting, a very cool game with some interesting mechanics. It's a wave-based experience with your main enemy being the police, who I assume are there to arrest you for tax evasion. This game is extremely fast-paced, which can sometimes be overwhelming, but they do something different. As you play, the enemies become more and more difficult, getting to the point where you should have had an extra person with you. Now, you might expect this game to average 200 or 300 players, right? This game, as of writing, has 65 players, assuming double on weekends. Please show this game some love, it really deserves it. I'm actually in awe. This is Pizza Game, a game about everything but pizza. You spawn in a church and your main objective is to go throughout the world collecting souls for something. I'm not completely sure yet. I do know souls will drop randomly from enemies, and I believe this kiosk has something to do with it. But you'll be killing demons trying to make it to the next checkpoint. Apparently, there's a lot of lore that goes into this game, and you know I love lore, so I'll probably be spending the next few days trying to piece everything together. But here's the baseline. It's a wave-based FPS game with Doom-like mechanics. I'm confused on why it's called Pizza Game though, because it would probably blow up if it was called something else. Averaging less than 200 players, this game needs to be talked about more. You wake up, two people beat you and throw you into a wooded area. They tell you,
"You are dead to the world. No name, no past. But here, you fight for your life."
You soon find out this wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Heavy doors close behind you as you fade away. This is Chain, a survival-based multiplayer horror game with a twist of lore. If you've played The Rake before and seriously enjoyed that game concept, you're going to love this game. That's because Chain kinda takes the same personality as The Rake, but they amplify it. You'll actually be able to fight off the Chain when he attacks you, but this only works if you have a weapon, of course. So instead of being a helpless individual running for your life, like most horror games, you actually get a chance of survival when you're cornered. Just look at the hand-to-hand combat you can have with the Chain. This type of defense and attack is something I've been looking for in a horror game, and you probably have too. By the way, if you want to read about the lore on this game, or any other game listed with lore, I'll leave some links in the description. The next game has a very similar premise, and you'll see why. This is Traversal. You are kidnapped and locked in a room with no clue of who or where you are. At the start, you're given a knife by someone who seems to be the mastermind of the operation. You only have one objective: escape. And you're gonna have to make some difficult choices for survival. This isn't your ordinary Roblox game. It strives for quality. The sound design is extremely immersive, and the fighting style makes you think twice about conflict. If you haven't played this game before, give it a try at least once. Alright, let's get into something a little more jolly. It's a lot like Unorthodox Accounting, but without the wave system and a lot more shooting. This is Project Remix, a round-based shooter with an immersive class system. The tutorial gives you all the basics, but the game's not that complicated. It may look intimidating with the flashiness it gives off, but it comes down to a few very simple mechanics. You'll have two abilities that you can choose from: healing, sprinting, things like that. Then a special remix ability that you'll be able to use after you get enough XP. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, but what separates this game from the others is that unmistakable retro style, the catchy original soundtrack, and the characters that bring life to the game. If you're looking for something a little more immersive than the typical FPS, then Project Remix is the perfect underrated shooter. Can you believe it averages less than 500 players? This is called an underground hangout game, and I don't want to spoil anything about this game. All I need to say is that if you're a Roblox veteran, you must play this game. It's a true masterpiece, absolute cinema. I'd recommend going in order of the game's storyline, and currently, as of writing this script, I just finished the game, and I'm speechless. It was first released in early 2024, then banned for unknown reasons. Later re-uploaded on that same year. This is Cruelty Blox. The game has some very interesting visuals and mechanics, not to mention everything about Cruelty Blox is low poly, giving off an uneasy vibe. But I guess it doesn't have to be low poly to do that. At its core, it's a first-person tactical shooter with no apparent direction. You might be wondering, why did I even recommend this game in the first place? Well, under the surreal visuals, it's a pretty immersive game. You can invest in the stock market, shoot people, or just explore the land. The main premise of Cruelty Blox is based directly off of the game Cruelty Squad, and if you know what that is, you probably recognized it from the start. Last but not least, we have Monster Employer. You begin speaking to a variety of different monsters, figuring out if they're worthy of employment. As you interview the different monsters, you'll notice some of them fall under certain categories, like talkative, scary, and whatever this thing is. As you survive more and more days, the monsters will get stranger and stranger, until it comes to a point where you might be fighting for your life. And remember, choose your monsters carefully, because if you don't, there will be consequences. Bottom line, Monster Employer is an extremely well-made game, averaging less than 150 players. It deserves way more attention. Alright, here's a few games that didn't make the cut, and I'll explain why. Number 1, Blood Debt. At first, it was an underrated round-based deduction game, but it slowly blew up in popularity. On the offhand, I can recommend its sister game, Polar Ice Cap Sim, also known as Canada Simulator. Number 2, Block Tales. Honestly, it's a very cool retro RPG, but it's just not underrated. Maybe at one point it was, but it may as well be overrated with all the people covering it. Number 3, Deadline. It's a round-based shooter focusing on customization. Deadline is definitely not underrated, but I do think it could use some more players. Honestly, I'd say it's perfectly rated. Number 4, Gravedigger. This is a World War I game focusing on underground gunfights, but it's just blatantly not underrated. I've seen it at a steady 1,000 players. Again, I'm gonna call it perfectly rated, with room for more players. Number 5, Isle. It may average a low amount of players, but at one point it was an extremely popular game, and honestly, it still kinda is. I wouldn't call it underrated due to all the coverage this game gets, but I will admit it deserves more players. Let me know if I missed any other games.